Farming+Group Pets+Double Cleanliness+Space, what's wrong with dressing up as a malicious female supporting character? A few uncles at home think about how to kill her every day, what to do. A powerful person is going to have her skin cut and her tendons pulled. Lifting 1,000 pounds with one force, I want to sharpen my knife with her bone and blood. A combination of medicine and poison, we cannot make her survive or die. Don't panic, don't panic. At this moment, they are still young and can still be raised. If you don't listen, your legs will break. Dare to resist, give it a beating on the ground, you must be honest. What if I just keep it and spoil it in a group? Big brother picked it up, big sister. In law is the biological one. A certain elder brother entered her room late at night, pitifully seeking comfort. Madam, why don't we run? Keywords of the novel. Nongmen Changshao. Favored by 6 villainous uncles without a pop-up window. Nongmen Changshao. Favored by 6 villainous uncles. Download the complete text. Nongmen Changshao. Favored by 6 villainous uncles. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Dead. Wearing it. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Dead. Wearing it. Fourth brother, is she really dead? I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? She's not even afraid of selling you, what are you afraid of? But what is that? You're so timid, no wonder you're going to be sold. You deserve it. Woo-woo. Fourth brother, sixth brother. What are you crying for? You know how to cry. Besides crying, what else can you do? She won't hide when she hits you. She stood there and was beaten by her. She deserved to sell you. The night was dim, and the moonlight lightly sprinkled on my head. On the back mountain of Qiannuo village, 3 sneaky figures struggled to lift an unidentified object and threw it into the valley. Dead fat pig, dead again. Gong Qianlin spoke in disgust, his eyes full of disgust towards the unknown object, and after finishing, he let out a curse at the things in the mountain valley. All right. Let's go. Gong Qiannuo, who was called the fourth brother in front, held Gong Qiannuo, who was trembling all over. He didn't even bother to take a glance at the unidentified object, as if taking another look would stain his eyes. Fourth brother, she. It's okay. If she dies, she'll die. Tomorrow when someone asks, they say she ran away with someone overnight. Gong Qiannuo comforted her younger brother and led his hand down the mountain. Halfway up the road, Gong Qianlin didn't catch up for a long time, turned around. Gong Qianlin crawled out of the mountain valley in a disheveled state, holding a large piece of clothing in her hand. Fourth brother, give me a hand. Peel off her clothes. Just like her, the clothes on her body are enough for us to wear for a long time. With the silver earned by Sanji's hard work, she raised herself like a pig. Anyway, she's dead, and clothes are wasted for her to wear. It has to be said that Gong Qianlin's courage is really great. He dares to scratch the clothes of dead people and is not afraid of the unknown object in the pit to find him in the middle of the night. Listening to Gong Qianlin's words, Gong Qiannuo didn't say much and reached out to pull Gong Qianlin up. Let's go. Let's go home. 3 figures descended the mountain and returned home under the moonlight. The moon is clear and the stars are sparse. They had just left when the unknown object they mercilessly abandoned moved. Gu Zining woke up feeling dizzy and bloated, surrounded by pitch black. It took her a long time to slowly adapt. Where is she? Isn't she reading novels at home? Is it that Gu Zian is playing pranks again? Hey! That's not right. Just Gu Zian, does he dare to throw himself out? Big brother, won't the third brother cut him alive? Gu Zian has a thief's heart but no thief's courage. On deceiving people. At most, he scares himself when he becomes obsessed with reading horror novels. Is this a time travel for her? Gu Xining's mind suddenly came up with this word. Shaking up, Gu Xining got up from the pit and stumbled down the mountain. She was buried alive by someone. In a chaotic mind, there are too many memories that do not belong to oneself. Gu Xining may not be able to speculate for a while. As she stumbled towards her home, following the memories of her body, familiar chirping sounds came from the pitch-black room. Is she really dead? If she dies, she won't come back. Shouldn't we be beaten anymore? Shouldn't we be sold? The owner of the voice is something that Gu Xining remembers. I have also heard it in a daze when going up the mountain. It seems to be Gong Qiannuo, the youngest child in the family, who is 6 years old this year. How can you come back after death? You're so stupid. Amidst the teasing, the owner of the voice is Gong Qianlin, who is 8 years old. Xiao Qi is not stupid, Lu Gu is stupid. Gong Qiannuo's milky voice was manly. Oh, would you know how to talk back? When she beat you up and wanted to sell you, why didn't you know how to talk back? Just finished crying, you're not afraid anymore. Gong Qianlin continued to joke. Gong Qiannuo's body, leaning against Gong Qianyu's arms, trembled violently. After a while, he loudly retorted, I'm not afraid. As if confirming something, if she dares to come back, I'll hit her with my head. Hit her. Don't brag, she can kill you with just one finger. If it weren't for me coming back in time, you would still be alive. What Gong Qianlin said is true, and Gong Qiannuo cannot refute it. If it weren't for Lu Ji's sudden return, he really might have been killed by that person. Although I'm very scared. However, he is very happy. That woman finally died. With tears in his eyes, Gong Qiannuo pulled at Gong Qianyu's sleeve and whispered in fear, Fourth brother, I heard from the ants in the village that a dead person will become. Will she? As the words fell, a cold wind blew in from outside the window, frightening Gong Qiannuo. His hand hidden in the blanket trembled violently, and his body leaned closer and closer to the people around him, trembling slightly. No way. She has done all her evil deeds, and if she goes to hell, the Yen prince will punish her. Be good, not afraid, where is fourth brother? Gong Qianyu said expressionlessly, placing her hand behind Gong Qiannuo and gently patting him, soothing him and coaxing him to sleep. After listening to the conversation inside the room, Gu Zining, who was squatting under the wall, felt even more pain in her head. What kind of blood mold did she get? After just now, the incident of her time travel was truly hammered. Her current identity is the sister-in-law of several people in the room. The malicious female supporting character in the novel plot. Lazy and greedy, with a dark heart. No wonder he ended up with 1,000 cuts and was executed by Ling Qi. It's just right for someone to say, she. When I was a child, I despised them for being procrastinators, abusive, and secretly selling them. Later, when he saw that the person had developed and was proud to stick it up. An infant may be able to die more happily. Just want to die. Alright now. Does it feel good to cut the body with knives one by one, wanting to scream but unable to make a sound, wanting to die, and unable to die? She could have started over again, but at the moment of rebirth, she was so scared to death. Coincidentally, Gu Zining, who shares the same name and surname as her, has arrived. Open the door. On the quiet night, Gu Zining clattered a few feet towards the door. Let's just consider it a door. The dilapidated wooden frame, mixed with hay and mud, kicked a piece of soil that couldn't stop falling. Who is it? A sound came from the room. The door was forcefully pulled open, ghosts. The frightened ghost cry was particularly clear on a quiet night. Gu Zining listened to the voice and spoke silently, what does a ghost call in the middle of the night? Didn't you say I became a ghost, and you also want to blow my head out? Gu Zining has no intention of changing the original owner's temper for the time being. It's not right now to make changes. Since she has arrived, these villains have not yet grown up, so they can still take care of her. Don't worry, Gong Qianlin is now scared to death. Wait for him to grow up. Hands up and knives down, killing people like wildfire, have you heard of it? Wherever you have passed, there are no chickens or dogs left behind. Let's learn more. What you're talking about is the little pudding in front of you. Also the one in the room called Gong Qiannuo. TSK. Compared to the former, there is more than enough. Amidst laughter and conversation, I will destroy your 9 tribes. Even more terrifying than Yan Wangye. Also, the smallest little bean pudding perfectly interprets what it means. With a wave of his sleeve and a lift of his hand, he destroys your city and leaves no grass to grow. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. What seems to be different about Sister.in.law? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. What seems to be different about Sister.in.law? After all, someone died, and the few people in the room didn't sleep very soundly. One sound. There is a ghost. Gong Qiannuo, who was already somewhat afraid, trembled with fear like a sieve. Not afraid. Gong Qiannuo comforted Gong Qiannuo and arrived at the door in the dark. Collision with Gu Zining, who entered the room. Gu Zining was wearing an undershirt and carrying moonlight on her back. When she went down the mountain, she messed up her hairstyle. Not to mention, she looked a bit like a ghost. Gong Qiannuo was momentarily stunned. Immediately calmed down. You didn't die. It is impossible for a dead person to have body temperature, although it was just a gentle touch. Gong Qiannuo must have seen this in front of her. It's human. She didn't actually die. Gong Qiannuo's hand hidden in her sleeve was tightly clenched. There is no wave on the surface. Gu Zining adapted to the dark eyes and quietly looked at Gong Qiannuo. He is truly the villain. Not very old, with good endurance. Gu Zining casually smiled at the corners of her mouth, pretending to be unaware, and asked. What? You really want me to die? Why don't you want to die? I always want to kill you. Gong Qiannuo roared in her heart, her lips tightly pursed. What a pity. My life shouldn't have ended, I didn't die. Gu Zining shrugged and walked into the room, taking the clothes she had gotten up from bed and putting them on. Dare to take my Sister.in.law's clothes? You're not afraid. Are you living impatiently? Although not an ancient person, Gu Zi is well aware of the pedantry of ancient people. She dares to guarantee that once her clothes are seen on the beds of her uncles, she will be sunk in the pond in less than 2 days and even be accused of being promiscuous and a woman. And they won't have a good reputation either. This kind of thing has happened before in my past life. Speaking of Gong Qiannuo, at least he was a child, deprived of the opportunity to obtain fame due to unfounded charges. This is also the fundamental reason for his blackening. There is a passage in my memory in winter, the weather was too cold, and the weak and sickly Gong Qianju's condition worsened. Gong Qianlin stole a piece of clothing from Gu Zining and covered Gong Qianju's body. On the same day, it was seen by villagers passing by, and the words slowly changed from the mouths of several long-tongued women. That statement is unpleasant to hear. What kind of Sister.in.law seduces my younger uncle? What is sharing a woman that's called spreading an evil idea? It's as if they saw it with their own eyes. Gong Qianju was already plagued by illness and couldn't withstand the gossip of the villagers, as well as the endless beatings and insults from Gu Zining. With guilt and reluctance towards their loved ones, they chose to jump into the river and die. Normally, the incident happened 6 months later, and now Gu Zining has to guard against it. The air in the room is terrifyingly quiet. Gong Qianju's mood is full of twists and turns. Gu Zining didn't bother them anymore and returned to another room to rest on his own. Damn it! Gong Qianlin spoke out in anger and punched the ground. He has a relatively simple idea. That's right, Gu Zining, why hasn't she died yet? If he had known she wasn't dead, he should have added more sticks. Gong Qiannuo remained silent and bent down to pull up Gong Qianlin, who was sitting on the ground. He spoke wearily, "We really shouldn't have taken her clothes. What does fourth brother mean by this?" Gong Qianlin urgently asked. There are also doubts about Gong Qiannuo. Since she came to our house, what she eats, wears, and uses is not ours. What's wrong with taking one of her clothes? Fourth brother, you still favor that poisonous woman. Gong Qianlin's eyes turned red with aura. Gong Qianlin said helplessly, "It's not that I'm biased towards her." "What is it that you are not biased?" Without waiting for Gong Qiannuo to finish speaking, Gong Qianlin let out a loud roar and kicked the wall, tears streaming down his face. Gu Zining, who was returning home, was about to fall asleep when she suddenly felt a tremor on the ground. He walked out of the room with a dark face. "What are you arguing about in the middle of the night? If you want to argue, get out and argue, and don't let anyone sleep." Having a splitting headache, Gu Zining instinctively let out a roar. Suddenly, it became quiet. Sleep feeling a bit aggressive, Gu Zining spoke softly. After speaking, "Don't worry about them anymore, just lie in bed and fall asleep. Nightmares haunt me all night." When Gu Zining woke up, the sun was already rising 3 times. In the courtyard, the 3 brothers of the Gong family did not go out. Seeing Gu Zining come out, the youngest Gong Qiannuo was so scared that he hid behind Gong Qiannuo. It's also a blessing from the original body. Even if Gu Zining sleeps until the 3rd pole of the day, no one finds it strange. Gu Zining grabbed her messy hair and, after solving her 3 anxieties, saw the 3 brothers standing guard, motionless. "Have you had breakfast yet?" Dot. 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 Get it. I asked about loneliness. Gu Zining entered the kitchen, the old pots and pans were cleaner than her face. There is no sign of any fire in the kitchen either. Who can cook? Gu Zining walked to the door and asked. Dot. 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 Good job. Received a wave of white eyes. Since we don't cook, why don't we all go to the field and work? What do we eat if we don't work? That's true. Force her to roar like a lion from the east. Gu Zining pointed at Gong Qiannuo and Gong Qianlin. You two, go to the field and work honestly for me. I can't finish today's work. Let's see how I deal with you. As he finished speaking, he pointed at Gong Qiannuo and said, Gong Qiannuo, go get me some water to wash my face. Poison. Just as Gong Qianlin spoke in anger, Gu Zining made a sharp cut. Gong Qiannuo pulled Gong Qianlin back half a step. Fourth brother. Let's go work in the field first. It's a busy time now. You can loosen the soil in the field first, and I'll be back in a moment. Gu Zining is still as fierce as ever. After last night, Gong Qiannuo felt that she didn't seem to be so fierce anymore. This thought just flashed by Gong Qiannuo, and then dissipated into thin air. He crouched down and whispered to Gong Qiannuo, it's busy farming now. Fourth and sixth brothers are going to work in the fields, and Xiaoqi needs to be obedient at home. If anything happens, go find fourth brother in the fields. Gong Qiannuo was timid, tears in his eyes, and nodded strongly. Alright, go get her some facial wash. If you're hungry, cook and eat by yourself. Gong Qiannuo nodded. Gong Qiannuo stood up, touched Gong Qiannuo's head, and turned to leave. Gu Zining stood in the courtyard, waiting for Gong Qiannuo to fetch water and wash his crops. The little one, due to malnutrition, looks like a 3-year-old child at the age of 6. As Gu Zining watched the little person struggling to carry a basin of water and swaying towards her, she stepped forward and caught it. Gong Qiannuo instinctively shook his body and said in fear, Sister-in-law, I can do it. I will be very careful not to spill it. Look. It scares people and children. Gu Xining's heart was pricked and she felt a muffled pain. What a sensible child, look at how you mess with people. It's okay. Sister-in-law can come by herself. Gu Xining placed the basin on the low stool in the courtyard, and the water reflected her current face. A classic quote, I don't know when to say it or not. How can we describe this face with just one ugly word? Gu Xining felt that it was an insult to the ugly character. His face was covered in horizontal flesh squeezed together, and his facial features were almost indistinct. Only those eyes barely looked. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Someone instigates discord. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Someone instigates discord. Gu Xining looked at the image in the water and gritted her teeth in anger. Gu Xian. Gu Xining wished he could chew these 3 words apart and throw them into the stinky ditch. If she can go back. She must let him know why the flowers are so red. Gu Xining was immersed in sadness, she needed time to digest the fact that her body was as fat as a pig. Little did they know how terrifying her gritted teeth looked in the eyes of Gong Qiannuo, who was standing beside her. With a thud, Gong Qiannuo knelt heavily on the ground, constantly kowtowing, afraid that he would knock too slowly and be beaten again. Sister-in-law, don't be angry. It's all because Xiaoqi is not good, Xiaoqi will definitely make changes. Gu Xining frowned suspiciously at the sound. What's wrong with her? What did she do wrong? Can you say it's just because she helped take the water? You. Sister-in-law, every mistake is my fault. Don't be angry, don't sell Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi can do anything and can do anything. Did she say she wanted to sell him? Gu Xining reached out and pulled Gong Qiannuo up. She is not her and has no foul odor of making people kneel and kowtow. However, as soon as she touched him with her hand, Gong Qiannuo was like a frightened bird, his small body trembling even more fiercely. The fear in his eyes made the tears in his eyes unable to fall. Get up. Gu Xining stubbornly pulled up Gong Qiannuo. When did I say I wanted to sell you? Are you kneeling and kowtowing all the time, cursing me? Gu Xining asked coldly. I don't. Gong Qiannuo's timid answer. There is no best. The man has gold under his knees. Speaking, Gu Xining took the blanket from the basin and wiped away Gong Qiannuo's tears. Another frustrating day. Gu Xining shook her head helplessly. After a moment, slowly speak up. Don't cry, go cook. I'm hungry. Just as she entered the kitchen, Gu Xining took a rough look. Home is really poor. After flipping through the rice jar, there was only half a handful of flour that I didn't know anything about. Gong Qiannuo was momentarily stunned. He suspected that he was dreaming. But he has no evidence. What are you doing in a daze? Remember to do more and send some to your 4th and 6th brothers. After saying these words, Gu Xining haphazardly fiddled with a bunch of hair, took the corner of the wall with a missing mouth, and went out with a rusty sickle. It's really too oppressive. If she doesn't go out to breathe, she may be the first person to be suffocated by herself. In the fields. A woman with a disdainful expression, searching left and right for something, walked straight to the land of the palace family and asked knowingly. The 4th of the Gong family, I haven't seen your sister In Law again today, and she's sleeping at home again. Who doesn't know that the chubby daughter In Law of the Gong family is lazy and has never been to the ground since marrying for 2 years? If someone asks her, Gu Shi, do you know where your home is? Answering you, it must be her broom serving you, and greeting your father, mother, and ancestors for 18 generations. The one in Lianhua village who hasn't been scolded by her before. Speaking of the Gu family, not a single one likes them. Besides being lazy, he is also bad. He likes to play around with his younger uncle when he has nothing to do. The 2 brothers of the Gong family were too lazy to pay attention to the woman and worked silently. The woman didn't get angry at the situation and started speaking on her own. Gong Lao Si. You are at least a child. The work in this land is not done by you, a scholar. If I were to see it, I would have to let your sister.in.law Gu do it. Sleeping at home all day and not getting fat all over. Look at how thin you two are. Look at Gu's whole body of meat. If you cut it off, it can even compare to a fat pig. The woman spoke ill of Gu Zining without any regard, and Kafu Xiang's face was filled with schadenfreude and mockery, while his mouth pretended to be bitter. To be honest, if you work tirelessly in the field without food or clothing, it's better for Gu Shi to eat and drink spicy food at home. It's not my sister.in.law gossiping about your sister.in.law. Look at your sister.in.law, you've earned a lot of silver by selling your child, but you're still kept in the dark. As the words fell, the woman pretended to have accidentally missed out and quickly covered her foul-smelling mouth. That's it, he gave a fake slap twice and said, look at my mouth. I promised Gu Shi not to say anything outside, why can't I hold back? Gong family's 4th and 6th, you shouldn't have heard me, haven't you heard me? Boom! Upon hearing the woman's words, the two brothers of the palace family had their brains blown out. A figure flashed quickly before my eyes. He is truly the 6th son of the Gong family, and Gong Qianlin stands tall. Poisonous woman, if you dare to sell my brother, you will seek death. Gong Qianlin was extremely resentful of Gu Zining and ran home in anger. Gong Qiannuo also wanted to go home and take a look, but he took a step slower and was blocked by the woman in front of him. Go away. Gong Qiannuo's heart was burning with anxiety, and she scolded coldly. The woman refused and started shouting loudly. What are you doing so aggressively? I kindly remind you not to let Gu Shi swallow the silver alone. It's selling your younger brother's silver, which is 10 taels. Your elder brother only married Gu Shi for 2 taels of silver. 10 taels of silver, don't let someone steal and raise someone unrelated. The woman made insinuations and shouted with guns and sticks. Now is the busy farming season again, and most of the people in the village are working in the fields. Upon hearing the sound here, everyone quickly put down their work and came over this way. What are you talking about, the General Gu's selling children? A woman close to the palace house spoke up and asked. Upon hearing someone ask, Lu Shi, who had a Kafu appearance, seemed to have opened her mouth like a gate. It's so vivid and vivid, just like she saw Gu Zining sell her family's uncle with her own eyes. What? Selling children. The villagers who surrounded almost dropped their chins when they heard Lu's words. How dare Gu dare? Oh no. Oh no, why did such a thing happen in Lianhua village? Selling children. That would involve the whole village going to jail. Someone let out a scream, and the shocked crowd finally came to their senses. Goddamn Gu, something inferior to a beast. A filthy thing that was struck by lightning. He doesn't do anything. Selling children. How dare Gu dare? Everyone must have been killed by her. It is explicitly stipulated that children should not be sold without authorization. The village chief only gave door-to-door notices, stating that anyone who dares to sell their children will be beheaded. Did the Gu family eat the bear heart leopard gallbladder? The Gong family only has these male dolls. Selling male dolls is even more serious and will implicate the entire village. Gu Shi is just a broom. Since she married into our Lianhua village, we have had one unfortunate incident after another. Earlier, as soon as she entered the door, she came to the village to catch young men. Everything was fine before, but she came. My pillar. My son. Gu Zining married to Lianhua village for 2 years, but did not have a good reputation. She had just passed the door and had not yet unveiled the hall cover. Her husband was arrested overnight as a strong man. Many people in the village were also caught together. Almost every household has been arrested. Catch the young adults at home. People. Once on the battlefield, who can guarantee that everyone will come back with all their tails? Just half a year ago the war is over. Those caught together in the village, when they returned, less than 1/10 went. Similarly, the elder brother of the Gong family, Gong Qiannuo, has not returned. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Villagers visiting the door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Villagers visiting the door. The grief of losing loved ones has only passed for half a year, and many families in the village have not yet recovered. Under the scorching sun, it was flipped out naked. The wound is torn open, with skin and flesh attached, and blood flowing. Some women who have lost their husbands and sons have started to cry. Don't cry, big guy. Selling the child to Gu is a heinous crime. Let's arrest her first. When the official comes to take the person, we may still be able to compromise our efforts. The village can no longer afford trouble. Yes, yes, yes. First, tie up Gusher. The big guy is running towards the village with all his mouth and tongue. Lu, who fell behind, couldn't hide a smirk from the corners of her mouth. You deserve it. It's your turn to cry, it's your turn to die, husband, son. Lu and Gu Zining got married to Lianhua village on the same day. When it comes to catching strong men, because her father-in-law is the village chief, there are 4 brothers in the family, and the other 3 families are not in good spirits. All they give birth to are losers, except for her husband who is a leader. The elderly at home are hurting their grandchildren and clamoring not to cut off the roots of their old Li family. There's no way. The second and third of the old Li family took over Li Dagan. The third son of the Li family has returned, but unfortunately, he broke one arm and the second son of the Li family was unable to come back. For this matter, the second wife of the Li family is causing trouble at home. Plus, Lu has been married for 2 years without any offspring. Second Fong scolded her at every opportunity. She can't give birth, isn't she in a hurry? Being squeezed by my mother-in-law at home, and being laughed at by the villagers when going out. Yes. They are capable of giving birth. What about Kuhuisheng? Having children and raising them is the skill, and having them is not the same as having no bones left. Lu withdrew her sinister gaze and felt happy in her heart. No one wants her to be better off, no one in the village can think of it. Gong Qiannuo walked at the back of the crowd, and Lu's every move fell into his eyes. The one at home is not a good person, and the one in front of me is also not a good thing. I thought he didn't know that Gu Zining was going to sell his younger brother, which was the idea behind the malicious woman in front of him. The reason why he didn't expose her in public and cooperated with her was just to kill Gu Zining first. As for her, bah. 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 Halfway down the mountain, Gu Zining lay on the ground in a disheveled state, spitting out mud from her mouth. Sure enough. The novels are all deceptive. It was agreed that there would be treasures up the mountain, such as the Great Lingji and the Great Ginseng. However, if she encounters a tiger or a pack of wolves, with her current tonnage, she cannot defeat them, but she can try to crush them to death. But take a look. What does it mean to have a smooth and slippery road up the mountain? Is it because she used a malicious female supporting script? So it's not worth going up the mountain. The female protagonist went up the mountain to get rich. She has to eat mud at the foot of the mountain. It's too bullying. She came out to breathe, not to feel angry. All morning, I struggled to climb up the road, which used to be a bit grassy. It might even be smoother than a newborn baby's face. Gu Zining's anger became even more displeased during this meeting. Forget it. Go home. This mountain conflicts with her. Gong Qianlin rushed into the house in a hurry. Poisonous woman, if you dare to sell my brother, I'll kill you. Before anyone could enter the yard, angry voices were heard first. In the kitchen, Gong Qiannuo obediently cooked and carefully placed 2 bowls into the basket. When did you eat? Gong Qiannuo can't remember clearly. It seems like 2 days ago, it seems like 3 days, maybe even longer. Big brother is gone, fifth brother's health is not good, and the medicine doesn't leave. A few days ago, I heard that a doctor with excellent medical skills came from the neighboring county. The second brother carried the fifth brother out to seek medical treatment, but has not returned yet. The third brother works in the county town and all the monthly income he earns is in the hands of his sister. In law. Today's sister. In law asked for cooking, and Gong Qiannuo was the first to think of the fourth and sixth brothers working in the field. The eldest brother is still there, and the fourth brother has attended a private school and passed the child education exam. Although their family is not wealthy, they are still living a good life. At least the food won't be short for them. Since my sister In law got married, my elder brother was arrested as a strong man, and my mother, who was already in poor health, followed him. They never had a full meal again. Even though he was very hungry, Gong Qiannuo still wisely found a piece of cloth to cover the basket to prevent dust from falling when he delivered the meal. Gong Qiannuo tidied up and was about to leave when he heard Gong Qianlin's voice and stopped his movements to leave. Brother Lu. Where is the poisonous woman? Where is she? Is she sleeping at home again? Gong Qianlin let out a cracking question as he entered the door. Gong Qiannuo looked confused, but still answered Gong Qianlin's words. My sister. In law is not here and I'm going out. Before I go out, let me cook and send it to brother 6. Where's brother 4? He hasn't come back. Have you left? Upon hearing Gong Qiannuo's voice, Gong Qianlin finally realized. Didn't it mean that the poisonous woman sold you? Why are you at home? Take a look. What did his sixth brother say? Gong Qiannuo replied angrily, you were just sold. After finishing speaking, stomping his feet, he turned around and ignored Gong Qianlin. Gong Qianlin. No. Gu Shi, come out for us. You're a heartless person who dares to betray your uncle. Aren't you afraid of thunder and lightning? Before Gong Qianlin could figure out why his younger brother was at home, a group of people arrived at the gate of the courtyard in a lively manner. Isn't that Gong Xiaoqi? Why is he at home? The most advanced person in the yard saw little doubting standing in the yard and asked suspiciously. Didn't it mean he was sold? Why is he at home? Didn't it mean he wasn't the one selling it? And who is the old man from the Gong family? Selling 10 taels of silver, is it the second son of the Gong family? No way. The second son of the Gong family is already 14, who wants to sell it? That's strange. The seventh son of the Gong family is clearly at home, is he selling as the fifth son? Old Wu. Don't tease me. He's just holding a medicine jar all day. Who wants to buy him? Isn't it a waste of money? The discussion among the villagers was lively with every word you said and every word I said. Aren't we here to catch Gu Shi? Upon hearing someone's reminder, everyone remembered their purpose of coming over. The leading women rushed into the room without saying a word and started looking for people. The house of the Gong family is not big, with muddy walls and straw roofs. Divided into 2 rooms, one in the east and one in the west. The west room is occupied by the Gong family brothers, while the east room is occupied by Gu Zining, each with his own room. The women who were looking for someone quickly came out. How about it? Did Gu catch it? Who is selling it to the Gong family? Seeing the women coming out, everyone couldn't wait to ask. No. The elderly woman spoke and shook her head with a displeased expression. Gu is not here. Not here. Is it difficult to run away with the silver? Who else is in that room? Is the fifth son of the Gong family there? Upon hearing the woman's words, the villagers were immediately dumbfounded. I started speculating again. The woman shook her head. There's no one in the room at all. How could there be no one? Does Gu know we came to catch her and ran away early? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Poisonous Women Fury. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Poisonous Women Fury. Gu Zining dragged the willow branches cut on the road towards home. I saw a group of people on the outskirts of her yard from afar. Get closer and just hear what's inside. What does it mean she ran away? Where did she go? Why run? Gu Zining poked the person in front with her chubby paws and asked softly. What happened inside? It's so lively. The person being asked stretched their neck and looked into the yard, not even paying attention to who he was. They only assumed it was a late arriving villager and blurted it out. It's not Gu's fault yet. She boldly sold her child, and everyone was discussing catching her. I don't know if she ran away with the money, but there's no one in the room. Everyone is looking for her. What? What did that person say just now? Selling children. Gu's. Are you talking about her? Who did Gu sell? Gu Zining asked. The seventh son of the Gong family, the youngest one in the Gong family, Gu Shi has been wanting to sell him for a long time. However, it's also strange. What's strange? Old seven of the Gong family was clearly at home, and everyone was speculating that Gu had actually sold the one from the Gong family. Guess who she sold? Gu Zining suppressed her anger and spoke calmly. If she knows which turtle bastard is spreading rumors here, see if she doesn't crush that person into a meat cake. This is the strange thing. Even if we sell children, we are still the youngest among the sellers. Don't you see that the seventh son of the Gong family is doing well there? The fifth son of the Gong family is not allowed. The third son of the Gong family works outside, so he can only be the second son of the Gong family. But the second son of the Gong family is already 14 years old. Who told you that Gu sold children? Gu Zining listened with a burst of laughter. Before she wears her emotions, Gu Shi sells children and there is still a follow-up. Who else is there? Lu Shi. They are the only ones who play the best in the village. Gu Shi sells children, that's what she said. Lu's. Gu Zining quickly retrieved Lu's memories in her mind. I suddenly realized. No wonder the villagers gathered at her house. It's not strange. It's not strange. Who makes Gu Shi stupid besides being lazy, greedy, and vicious? She believes that Lu asked her to sell her child for her own good. Gu Zining sighed inwardly and touched the slightly painful wound in the back of her head. When she looked up again, a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, seemingly non-existent. In the blank space of Gu Zining's days, the villagers who were talking to her suddenly turned around. Gu. Gu Shi, his eyes widened sharply. The villager's expression was like seeing a ghost, shouting loudly and unconsciously taking a step back. Gu Shi. Where is Gu Shi? The villagers who heard the sound turned their heads one after another. Gu, how dare you come back? Do you know that selling children is illegal and will affect the entire village? Why are you so confused? The villagers immediately started blaming Gu Zining when they saw her. There is anything to say. In short, she sold her children and killed them herself. Don't implicate them. That's enough. Gu Zining had a splitting headache when the villagers argued and let out a loud roar. Given her notorious reputation, the entire yard fell silent the next second. Who told you that I sold my children? My little uncles are all doing well at home, why should I sell them? Who will work for me if I sell them? Gu Zining spoke very roughly. But the villagers of Lianhua village all know that without a few children from the Gong family, Gu Zining would either die of laziness or starvation. Gu Shi, why are you so malicious? You don't work and spend all day honing your younger uncles. How old are they? You said your uncles are all at home, but where have the second and fifth of the palace family gone? They haven't seen each other for several days. Did you secretly sell them? Lu Shi in the crowd saw Gu Zining fooling the villagers in a few words and questioned with a sharp voice. Gu Zining looked coldly into the crowd, with the corners of her mouth raised and her chubby body twisted as she approached. She only heard a crisp sound and a big mouth slapped on Lu's face. The villagers were startled by the sudden slapping sound and froze. Lu was equally incredulous until she felt pain on her face, which made her realize that she had been beaten. Gu Shi, you little, lowly, person, dare to hit me. As she spoke, Lu Shi fiercely rushed towards Gu Zining. Pop. The crisp sound rang out again. Lu was completely angry and screamed, Gu, you shameless, slut, dare you hit me, dare you hit me. What's wrong with hitting you? It's just you. I'm selling your legs, milk, and milk. Which eye did you see me selling children? Are you still selling the second and fifth? A few days ago, Gong Qianfan carried Gong Qianzhu to see a doctor, and everyone saw it. Lu Shi, you spread rumors about me behind my back, ruined my reputation, and I just hit you. What's going on? Do you still have a reputation? Don't be funny. Ask everyone, do you still have a reputation in Lotus Village? I slandered you. Why didn't you say I slandered you when you asked me to help you find someone to buy a child? You little, lowly, person, dare to hit me, I'll fight with you. After receiving 2 slaps from Gu Zining in the face, Lu was provoked and spoke unstoppably. His words once again shocked everyone. What? Gu's selling children was brought in by Lu's family. This. The villagers were whispering in 2s and 3s. The words fell into Lu's ear, and she became even more insane. She exerted all her strength and bumped into Gu Zining's stomach. Just as she was about to touch herself, Gu Zining's chubby body rushed forward and pressed Lu's shirt directly under her. Do you really think that her weight of almost half a ton is white? Lu's body is weak and small, forming a sharp contrast with Gu Zining's physique. She felt like her head was in a daze and half of her foot had entered the gates of hell. That's not all for now. The next second, the crisp sound of slaps kept ringing in my ears. The cold floating sound of Gu Zining was in my ear. Is my reputation good or not? It's none of your business. I haven't married into your family yet, so you're so lenient. You said I'm selling my uncle, but you're probably jealous that there are so many uncles in my family. You can't even give birth to a fart yourself. Murder kills the heart. Lu hates people saying she can't have children the most. The head pressed to the ground, with a look of anger and hatred like a knife, vowed to cut Gu Zining to pieces. What's wrong? I was wrong. You've been trying to trick me into selling my uncle all day, just because I can't see my family having children, and you don't. What's the benefit of selling my uncle to you? Gu Zining spoke leisurely, her hands moving non-stop. Whenever the villagers tried to persuade her, they were frightened back by her fierce gaze. Oh, I see. It's not that you can't see my family having too many children, you can't see the whole village being nice. Once I'm caught selling children, not a single member of the village can escape. In the past 2 years, you've seen more and more people giving birth in the village. Are you particularly jealous? I'm so jealous that I want the whole village to be buried together. The original, Gu Zining, was indeed a brainless person, always following behind Lu's buttocks. Is it really like someone gave her advice to make her prosperous and prosperous? They just used her as a tool to kill. Her greatest thoughts were exposed in broad daylight, and Lu was so angry that her eyes were dizzy and her face was swollen that she couldn't say a word. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Underground Cage with Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Underground Cage with Space. Can it be that I was wrong? Everyone's ears are not deaf. Listening to your own words about finding someone to buy my child, I am not slandering. Seeing that the fight was almost over, Gu Zining stood up and rubbed her sore hand. Have you finished watching the excitement, everyone? Can you leave my house after watching it? Gu Xining's soft words fell into the ears of the villagers, making people feel cold all over for no reason. You look at me, I look at you, all disappeared without a trace in a blink of an eye. In the dilapidated courtyard, only Gu Xining and the three brothers of the Gong family remained, as well as the Lu family lying on the ground. What about you? You're not getting out yet. Gu Xining did not pay attention to Lu Shi's resentful gaze. Being an enemy may be more suitable than being a friend, as we are not from the same group. What are you still waiting for? Why don't you invite your sister in law Lu out? The three brothers of the Gong family were taken aback. Gong Qiannuo looked coldly at Lu Shi on the ground and spoke coldly. Are you leaving on your own, or are we brothers throwing you out? Lu stared fiercely at Gu Xining, completely deaf to Gong Qiannuo's words. Since. Bang. Before Gong Qiannuo and the others could take action, Gu Xining kicked Lu out of the courtyard with a flying kick. The small courtyard has finally become clean. Gu Xining entered the kitchen and saw the cold food on the stove. She washed her face, picked up a bowl, and returned to the room. Leaving behind a sentence. Once the food is ready, eat it. After finishing, quickly go to work in the field. Gong Qiannuo. Gong Qianlin. Gong Qiannuo. Fourth brother. Gong Qiannuo spoke timidly. Gong Qiannuo touched his head. Eat first, and after finishing the meal, Xiaoqi will go down to the ground together. Okay. Gong Qiannuo responded obediently. Gong Qianlin opened his mouth wide and closed, just about to speak eating. The conversation was interrupted, and Gong Qianlin almost choked to death, with a flushed face. Lunch is corn paste, very thin, similar to drinking a mixed grain drink, but the mixed grain is sweet, while the bowl is bitter. When Gu Xining reluctantly drank it and came out with a bowl, the figures of the three brothers of the Gong family had disappeared from the courtyard. The dishes in the kitchen were washed clean and placed in the cupboard. Looking at the deserted home, Gu Xining twisted her eyebrows. In order to avoid being cut by thousands of knives in the future, we must first work hard to earn money, and let them eat and wear warm clothes, which is the way. In the following time, Gu Xining busied herself with the willow twigs she had dragged back. In the evening, she carried a few ugly things and went out again. When I went out in the morning, Gu Xining wandered around. Lianhua village was backed by mountains and water, and the fields were divided into dry and paddy fields. When she was young, she liked to play in the countryside and ran freely in the wind. At that time in the countryside, she often saw uncles and uncles carrying a specially made fish cage going down to the river at night and harvesting it in the morning. She became curious and followed along to learn. I didn't expect to use it like this. When they reached the paddy field, most of the villagers in the field had already returned home, and a few others were also packing their agricultural tools and planning to go home. Gu Xining has been waiting for a while. She only took out the things in her hand when the villagers had all returned home. It's the fish cage she wove with willow, although it's a bit shoddy. The fish cage has two ends, one thick and the other thin. The thick end is filled with a funnel-shaped object and placed in the water, while the thin end is covered with a lid, slightly exposed to the water surface. The bait is earthworms that can be dug everywhere. After setting down the fish cage, Gu Xining watched the meeting on the side until the moon hung high before getting up and going home. In the kitchen. The three brothers of the Gong family did not see Gu Xining when they returned home, nor did they pay attention to her. Gong Qianlin is boiling water, and Gong Qiannuo is bathing Gong Qiannuo. After a busy day in the field, everyone was covered in dirt. Gong Qiannuo obediently cooperated with Gong Qiannuo. Gong Qianlin couldn't resist speaking and said, "Fourth brother, have you noticed that the poisonous woman is a bit different today?" Gong Qiannuo paused his hand as he bathed Gong Qiannuo, and then said, "The fact that she wants to sell us cannot be changed, she can change as she wants." It is not difficult to hear Gong Qiannuo's hatred towards Gu Zining in his words. It's just that today's Gu Zining never let go of his eyebrows. Fourth brother, sixth brother is right. Today's sister.in.law seems to have improved. She didn't hit us either, and even let us eat. Gong Qiannuo raised his hand to express his thoughts and took over Gong Qianlin's words with a gentle voice. In his perception, his brothers are all here, not beaten, and having food to eat makes him very happy. Gong Qiannuo's heartfelt words made Gong Qianlin roll his eyes and say, "Where did she get better? I'm not sure what bad idea she's thinking." "You think she's good? It has already improved." Gong Qiannuo retorted, "She hit the Lu family today. The Lu family is really bad, often wandering around the house with people. Every time she comes, her sister.in.law scolds and even hits harder." Gong Qiannuo remained silent and lowered her head, unable to see clearly. Just as Gong Qianlin was about to speak, Gong Qiannuo's voice rang out. "Xiao Lu, come and take a shower." Gong Qianlin reluctantly threw the burning stick in his hand heavily onto the ground and let out a furious roar. "A poisonous woman is a poisonous woman. Xiaoqi, don't deceive him." Speaking of which, Gong Qianlin is only 2 years older than Gong Qiannuo, and he is just a child. If we really talk about selling children, there is also a chance that they will be sold. Gong Qianlin angrily patted the water in the basin, venting his dissatisfaction and unwillingness. He hates his current self, cannot protect his younger brother, cannot protect himself. Gong Qiannuo silently looked at her younger brother to vent her anger, her gaze in the darkness unclear. Gu Zining returned home, surprisingly quiet. She stopped outside the courtyard for a long time until a chill came from her body, took a deep breath, and returned to her room. "I'm sure I won't have to eat dinner, as my family has run out of extra food." Gu Zining, who slept until midnight, woke up from hunger and stared at the pitch-black roof. "It took a long time for my mind to return from confusion." She didn't sleep very well, with continuous nightmares and the smell of sweat filling her entire nose. "Get up and hit the basin before returning to the house." Of course. Everything is happening in the dark. Oil lamps are expensive and generally not affordable for rural people. Gu Zining carefully wiped her body under the moonlight, thinking about how to make money. Suddenly, I felt a pain in my finger and the scenery in front of me changed. Gu Zining was stunned for a few seconds. The brain is running rapidly. What is she? Is it space or not? The warm breeze gently swayed, and Gu Zining stood on a grassy open space. In front of him was a strange-shaped bonsai rockery, with a small bowl of water placed under the dry spout. Gu Zining picked up a bowl and took a sip of water, her eyes suddenly lit up. It is indeed a good thing. It seems that the heavens are still kind to her. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Entering the City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Entering the City. Hang up. Gu Zining is extremely excited. But how did she get out of this space? As her mind moved and her eyes lit up, she returned to the room. Touch your hand along the painful area. Gu Zining finally knew where the feeling of being strangled came from. Emotion is a jade pendant hanging around the neck, because it's too fat and the rope is pulling around the neck. Holding the jade pendant, Gu Zining looked at it under the moonlight and became increasingly familiar with it. Isn't this the coming-of-age gift given to her by Gu Zian? Ning is her name, representing uniqueness. Although the material of the pendant was not visible, and it was still black and dark, Gu Zining found a red rope to hang around her neck. Unexpectedly, it followed along. It's actually a space. In the following time, Gu Zining tried to enter and exit the space several times, and after confirming that it was not a dream, she fell asleep again. In April, Lotus Village was filled with green grass and warblers, and everywhere was full of vitality. The early villagers are working in the fields, and the village is filled with smoke from cooking. Gu Zining slept very well in the latter half of the night, not sure if it was due to drinking the bowl of water in the space. She woke up energetic in the morning. Stretching lazily, Gu Zining walked out of the room. Gong Qiannuo is cleaning the yard with a broom. He swept the small courtyard very clean. Seeing Gu Zining come out with a broom, she timidly shouted, "Sister-in-law. Good morning." Gu Zining was in a good mood and said good morning to Gong Qiannuo with a smile on her face. Gong Qiannuo was stunned and looked at the sky. "It's already past time, why does Sister-in-law still say it's too early?" "My Sister-in-law said it's already early." Gong Qiannuo replied, "Good morning, Sister-in-law. Does Sister-in-law want to wash your face? Xiao Qi will fetch water for you." Gong Qiannuo put down his broom and went into the kitchen to fetch water. Being cautious and showing a pleasing demeanor, Gu Zining let out a big sigh in her heart. "Thank you, Xiaoqi. What time is it now? Where are your fourth brother, sixth brother, and others?" Gu Zining simply washed her face with the water brought by Gong Qiannuo. Fourth and sixth brothers went to work in the field, and Xiaoqi cooked wild vegetable soup. "Does Sister-in-law want to drink it?" Gong Qiannuo obediently answered, crossing his hands and caressing, feeling extremely nervous. "Thank you, Sister-in-law won't drink." "Xiaoqi, let's drink. By the way, have your fourth and sixth brothers had breakfast yet? You can go call them back later, and we'll go out later." Gu Zining thought for a long time last night and came up with a way to make money. She just doesn't know the way to go on the street, and she doesn't know if the three brothers will agree to go with her. As she thought, Gu Zining carried a bucket and went out to collect the fish cage she had left last night. "No matter if it's there or not, we have to get some food back first." After she left, Gong Qiannuo awkwardly regained his senses. "My Sister-in-law said, thank you, to him twice, and he wanted to go and tell his brothers the good news. My Sister-in-law also said she wants to take them on the street." Gong Qiannuo's heart tightened when she heard Gu Zining say she wanted to take them on the street, and her eyebrows furrowed. What is she doing again? "Fourth brother, what do you think that poisonous woman wants to do? Take us out on the street, isn't it selling us?" Gong Qianlin became vigilant, holding a stick in his hand, thinking to himself that if that poisonous woman dared to sell them, he would fight against her. "I don't know either. Let's go home and take a look first. Be clever and run away as soon as you see the situation is not good." Gong Qiannuo instructed her two younger brothers, thinking about how to eliminate the calamity at home. The three brothers returned home with a nervous heart. There was a bucket in the yard, and Gu Zining's chubby body squatted on the ground, looking at the contents of the bucket and laughing more obscene. Gu Zining did not expect such success in trying a fish cage for the first time. Each of the 5 cages was filled with a large amount of goods, including 2 black fish weighing around 1 pound, in addition to eels. Make money, make money. Gu Zining chuckled and looked up to see 3 young uncles looking at her with a guarded expression. Gong Qiannuo timidly hid behind Gong Qiannuo, revealing half of his head and his big eyes filled with fear. Gu Zining coughed clearly and knew she had lost her composure. Lang Xing said, "Since you all have returned, let's go out together." Without giving the 3 brothers a chance to refute, Gu Zining left with a bucket in hand. When passing by the 3 brothers, she clearly felt their vigilance and hostility towards her. "Can we leave or not?" Gu Zining raised her voice and took proud steps again. "Fourth brother." Gong Qiannuo timidly tugged at Gong Qiannuo's sleeve and asked in a low voice. Gong Qianlin didn't have that much thought and said loudly, "Let's go. Look what tricks she's playing again." As the words fell, it was like a fighting chicken following behind Gu Zining with a fierce and spirited spirit. He thought he could intimidate people, but little did he know that in Gong Qiannuo's eyes, it was so funny and even more thought-provoking. He may take this opportunity to do something. Thinking about this, Gong Qiannuo led Gong Qiannuo to follow up. Gu Zining was married from another village, and the idea her parents instilled in her from a young age was that she would become the head of a wealthy family in the future. As a result, she was nurtured to be spoiled, domineering, arrogant, and lazy. When unmarried, there were parents to serve. Not to mention going out, I wished I could eat, drink, and have sex with my parents. After 2 years of marriage, the number of times she left the house can be counted with 5 fingers. Why did she marry into the palace family? Ape dung. One is notorious, and the other is a bunch of dragging oil bottles for the whole family. Gu Zining's father was one of the first batch of strong men to be arrested. He didn't have a place to go and died on the way. When he was sent back, his mother couldn't bear the blow and fell ill. When she closed her eyes, she couldn't let go of her. Finally, she found out that there was a son in the Gong family, who was 17 years old. Due to having many younger brothers and a sick widowed mother, no girl was willing to marry. When others were unwilling to marry, she naturally did not want to marry either. Fortunately, her conscience remained strong. After listening to her mother's advice, she received 2 taels of silver and married over. After getting married, my husband captured a strong man, my mother left, and my mother-in-law died. She became a plague god for no reason. It can be imagined that the days of a few young uncles at home, the sun shines in the sky, and the wildflowers on the roadside are fluttering in the wind. Under a big tree, Gu Zining was panting heavily, and the heart in her chest was beating 120 times per minute. Sweat soaked my clothes, making me thirsty and tired. How long until it arrives? Gu Zining panted heavily and looked at the hot sky, saying. Gong Qiannuo used to go to school in the city, and he knew the way. Half an hour, he said with great reluctance. What? Gu Zining stumbled under his feet and his mind went blank for a moment. For half an hour. Over an hour. Gu Zining sighed in her heart, I made a mistake, I made a mistake. She should have waited for the village's ox cart to come to the city together. Looking down at his weight approaching half a ton, he shook his head again. Forget it. If one of them doesn't work out, she'll have to pay for the cow's cart. Feeling my empty pockets, I became even more hesitant to think. Let's go. Gu Zining hammered her sore legs and continued with the bucket. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Disgusted and Made Money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Disgusted and Made Money. Linshui City. Rui Building. The shop assistant saw off the last customer in the store and saw a big and 3 small people standing at the entrance. The big and chubby pig is despised, while the small ones are ragged and skinny. Who are they? Not Gu Zining. The shop assistant was too lazy to even glance at them, full of disgust towards rushing people. Hurry up and leave, where did the beggar come from? Our Rui building is something that your beggars can come to. Go somewhere else to beg for food, don't dirty the area of Rui building. Speaking, he swung the white cloth on his shoulder and entered the room. Rui Restaurant is the largest restaurant in Linshui City. However, is this kind of virtue the person in the largest restaurant? A beggar. Beggar. Gu Zining felt offended. That little brother, we're not beggars, we. Get out. Get out. Get out. Who cares if you're a beggar, don't even see what this place is. If you don't get out, be careful not to be polite to you. The shop assistant had a bad attitude and didn't even give people a chance to speak. He waved his hand and signaled to the thugs in Rui building to drive them away. No. Hurry up and get out of here. The leading man took a step forward and reached out to push. Gu Zining took a step back in embarrassment, but due to inertia, she almost fell. Fortunately, someone supported her from behind, but fortunately she didn't fall. Otherwise, with her current physique, if she falls, she will definitely shake the earth and mountains. I don't know if she thought the earth dragon would turn over. Gu Zining stands firm in danger and turns around to her surprise. It was the three brothers of the Gong family. Gu Zining smiled at the corner of her mouth and gave a cold glance at Rui Building, saying to the three brothers of the Gong family. Some people have a bad eye for others, so my sister In Law will take you to another house. She didn't believe it anymore. There was only the Rui Building family in Linshui City. After walking for about half an hour, Gu Zining's footsteps stopped at the entrance of a dilapidated restaurant called Yapinju. The afterglow of the sunset. It's time for dinner. Along the way, there were more or less diners in other stores. Take another look at Pinju. The dimly lit lobby was empty. A head was lying on the counter, and the faint snoring was the only sound in the store. Gu Zining placed the bucket outside the shop for the three brothers of the Gong family to watch, and walked in on her own. Dong dong dong. Gu Zining lightly tapped on the table. The person sleeping on the counter seemed disturbed and didn't look up. He waved his hand impatiently and said, "We need to eat at another place." This is the first time Gu Zining has seen a guest rushing to another house. Smile lightly and speak directly. "Boss, we don't eat and we want to do business with you." "Don't do business. If you want to do business, go elsewhere." "That's the same thing again." Gu Zining smiled. "If the boss doesn't do business, he will lose a lot. I can make your restaurant guests come like a cloud." It's not Gu Zining blowing. Although she doesn't know how to cook, she can't resist having three skilled cooking brothers. Her incompetent parents, after she was 1 year old, abandoned her three brothers to feed her on the grounds that she had grown up. In order to support her, the three brothers practiced martial arts like fire and pure youth. Especially her third brother. Cooking skills can be described as superb. However, he is a bit bad. When she likes cooking, write down the recipe for her to memorize. The person sleeping on the counter opened their sleepy eyes when they heard Gu Zining's shameless words. Eye contact. It's hard to say in a single word. The drowsy insects were scared away. Gu Zining spoke as if she didn't know. "Let's learn about boiled fish, sour soup fish, and spicy eel shreds." What? What are unidentified creatures saying? The man behind the counter felt that the impact of his eyes and ears was too strong, and he couldn't react for a moment. This person, let's consider it as human. How could anyone have such a clear voice, like a gentle breeze brushing against the willows, like the butterfly dance of 100 flowers blooming on the earth in spring, like the murmuring water by the stream, and delicate notes like flying feathers falling on my heart? My face is like a grinding wheel, and my facial features are flying aimlessly. When the man looked at Gu Zining was also looking at him. The man has a face close to that of a demon, undoubtedly good looking. However, the slightly green and hazy gaze, the crystal clear water stains under the thin lips, is quite cute. About half a pillar of incense has passed. The man's gaze slowly focused. What did you just say? What are boiled fish, sour soup fish, and that? What are they all? It's the boss's money tree that earns money every day, Gu Zining replied with a smile. Are you here to apply for a position as a chef? The man can only think so. Gu Zining shook her head and said, I don't know how to cook. I'm here to work with the boss. Collaboration. The man walked out from the counter behind and looked up and down at Gu Zining, including the three brothers of the Gong family standing at the door. The man had a pair of narrow peach blossom eyes, a cloud-patterned golden silk robe, and a gold belt tied around his waist, almost printing the words Nouveau Riche on his forehead. Yes. Collaboration. If you're interested, have you ever worked at Rui Building? I can help you. Upon hearing the three words, Rui Building, the man's eyes lit up and he became interested. You're talking big. Are you sure you can do the flipping of Rui Building? If it's a fake package exchange. Gu Zining didn't admit that she didn't like Rui Building. The man circled around Gu Zining a few times, but couldn't tell what she had. However, He is willing to do anything that can add congestion to rebuilding. Anyway, when you're idle, just find some fun for yourself. Half an hour later, with a smirk, hot oil poured onto a bowl of sour fish soup on the stove, and Gu Zining made a gesture of invitation and stood aside. The man's name is Huichinga. Year 15. Seeing it was ready to eat, I couldn't wait to pick up my chopsticks and taste it. First, I ate the sour soup fish in front of me, and then I ate the spicy eel shreds next to me. It wasn't until both dishes had entered his stomach that he let out a satisfying hiccup and put down his chopsticks. Delicious. It's so delicious. It can be said that he has lived for more than a decade and has never eaten such delicious food before. How about it? Do you want to collaborate with me? Gu Zining looked at Huichinga with a faint smile. Yes, of course I do. Huichinga shouted loudly. Let's go ahead and talk about cooperation. Done, he led Gu Zining out of the kitchen, his eyes looking at the remaining soup in the bowl with reluctance. Quickly walking out of the kitchen, he said, "Don't pour the rest, leave it for me as a late-night snack." Upon hearing his words, the chef in the kitchen quickly withdrew his outstretched hand. He has been a chef for his whole life and never knew he could cook like this. Taking advantage of his employer's absence, he secretly took a sip. In an instant, I felt like the rice I had cooked before. Not for people to eat. At the entrance, the three brothers of the Gong family watched helplessly as their sister In Law followed a man up the second floor, chatting and laughing. Gong Qianlin stared intently at the two people upstairs, as if he wanted to make a hole in them to be satisfied. With a face flushed with anger, he said fiercely, "Why is that poisonous woman so shameless? Does she know that she is married? How can she get so close to other men?" Fortunately, Gu Zining didn't hear his words. If I hear it, I will definitely loudly refute him. I don't even have to eat any food, why do I have to face it? After about a cup of tea, the two people upstairs came down. One in front and one behind, both with smiles on their faces. When they went downstairs, the two of them occasionally turned around and whispered to each other. In Gong Qianlin's eyes, this scene was even more infuriating. "Poisonous woman, you are my elder brother who married me for 2 taels of silver. You must abide by the principles of femininity," he roared forcefully as he rushed forward. Gu Zining. Huichinga. Gu Zining glanced at Gong Qianlin, who looked indignant at her. To Huichinga behind him, "That's settled. I'll come back tomorrow." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Selling after raising weight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Selling after raising weight, boss, for bowls of wonton, big bowl. Gu Zining and the three brothers of the Gong family found a stall near the city gate to eat wonton. Linshui City is the last town away from the capital city. Therefore, at night, the city gate does not close as early as other towns. On the contrary, the whole town is lively and bustling all night long. The boss quickly came up with 4 bowls of wonton, which looked round and plump with thin skin and much meat. Gu Zining looked up at the 3 brothers of the Gong family sitting opposite her. Gong Qiannuo sat expressionless. Gong Qianlin had an lingering anger on his face, and his eyes glared angrily, like a small beast poised for action. Gong Qiannuo was the most obedient, with a pair of big eyes staring straight at Gu Zining across from him. Even though he was as hungry as thunder, he still didn't move his chopsticks. "Eat. Aren't you hungry?" Gu Zining picked up chopsticks and started eating. "The taste is pretty good." When she finished a bowl and looked up, the 3 brothers across from her still didn't move. "How can you grow meat without being full? If you don't grow meat, no one wants it," Gu Zining said coolly. Upon hearing her words, Gong Qiannuo's small body trembled violently and his eyes were filled with fear. Gong Qianlin was burning with anger and was about to stand up when Gong Qiannuo gave him a hand. "Fourth brother, what are you pulling me for? Didn't you hear what she was saying? That poisonous woman was still thinking of selling us. Gong Qianlin's voice was loud, which caught the attention of other diners around him. Some diners even started whispering to their contrasting figures. I want to sell you. But if you don't look at your small bodies, who wants it? Gu Zining turned her head and scanned the surroundings. The diners who had been pointing at her all lowered their heads, pretending not to hear anything, and they didn't speak either. You. Gong Qianlin was so angry that he skipped his feet, but he couldn't resist Gu Zining, his face flushed and his neck thick. Gu Zining likes to see expressions like Gong Qianlin. He is still young now, so having an impulsive personality is not a big deal. When he grows up, he will suffer a big loss because of this temperament. Since she has arrived, no matter what happens in the future, she is their sister.in.law and has an obligation to educate them well in one day. Hurry up and eat. Eat well and go home. After finishing the soup in the bowl, Gu Zining put down her chopsticks and warned, I'll go buy some rice and noodles first. You guys should finish it for me as soon as possible. If I come back, any of you haven't finished eating or are not waiting for me here, you'll just wait for me to sell you. After speaking, Gu Zining went to the grocery store selling rice and noodles. When she left, she didn't pay wonton. When she came back, the three brothers of the Gong family were waiting for her in the wonton shop. There were 3 empty bowls in front of them. They must have finished eating. They are in a state of long-term hunger, unable to eat too full or too well. Eating too much or too well can cause discomfort in their digestive system. It's finished. Gu Zining came forward and gave the money to Wonton. He carried 10 jin of milled rice on his shoulder and a bucket with oil and salt in it. After leaving the city gate, the moon hung early in the sky. 4 people returned home under the moonlight. When I came, I felt the road was long, but when I returned, I didn't feel much. Perhaps it was because there was food in the stomach, and the 2 recipes sold to Huachinga, sour soup fish and spicy eel shredded, earned 10 taels of silver, which is why he was in a good mood. I walked home without realizing it. After arriving home, Gu Zining took out the newly purchased candle and instructed Gong Qiannuo to light the lamp. She placed the rice on her shoulder in the hall and took out a few cakes from her arms and placed them on the table. The pastries on the table are for you to buy. If you're hungry, take them and eat them. Today, I sold 2 recipes for cooking and got 10 taels of silver. I put them on the table. You can take some of the silver that our family owes others from inside and keep some for home use. Tomorrow, I'll go to EP1-10 residence to deliver the goods. Whoever can afford it, come with me. Having made money, Gu Zining didn't hide it from them. There was a Gu Zizhu who took medicine all year round at home, and relying solely on a few children who were only a little over 1.5 years old, it was inevitable that he owed money. She has memories of the original owner, but being unable to resist the original owner is a muddle. She doesn't care about anything at home. When she runs out of money, she asks her brothers for it, beats them if they don't give it, scolds them if they don't cook when they're hungry, and doesn't cook well. It's not as good as her wishes, and the combination of stick and stick is a common occurrence. Gong Qiannuo is currently the eldest among the 3 brothers and has read a book. Gu Zining spoke to him. After finishing speaking, he no longer cared about them and went out with a broken sickle and a fish basket. The 3 brothers at home watched with shock as Gu Zining walked out of the yard, her fat body disappearing into the moonlight. If there is no memory error, there will be an unprecedented storm in a few days, which has lasted for most of the month. The dilapidated house of the Gong family collapsed in that storm, and Gong Qianfan was buried in the ruins of the house to save his several younger brothers, losing his life. It's impossible to build a house in just a few days. Gu Zining can think of a way to earn more money and take his brothers to live in the town for a while. When buying rice noodles, she made a slight inquiry. Because Linshui City is only 2 days away from the capital, both prices and housing prices are not cheap. Rent the cheapest house in Linshui City, which costs at least 30 taels per month. In addition, renting a house requires a deposit, and a few people need to eat and drink. In just these 2 days, Gong Qianfan and Gong Qianzhu will also come back. Adding up the money for Gong Qianzhu's medicine, there won't be 100 taels of silver in all the odds and ends. I'm afraid it won't work. Thinking about these, Gu Zining felt that there were too few 5 fish baskets in her hand. After finishing the fishing basket later, cut some willow branches back. Gu Zining silently planned in her heart. Look at the 3 brothers at home again. Gong Qianlin looked at the pastries on the table and swallowed his saliva. He is so big that he would have bought it back when his older brother was there. After so long, he had long forgotten what pastry tasted like. After pursing her lips, Gong Qianlin said, "Can a poisonous woman be so kind? Shouldn't she poison the pastry?" Gong Qiannuo is the youngest, the softest-hearted, and defends Gu Zining weakly. "I guess not. The cake was bought by my sister in law, and she can't cook. Why would she invite us to eat wonton if she wanted to poison it?" Looking at his younger brother, who was bribed by a bowl of wonton, Gong Qianlin was so angry that he shouted, "Didn't you hear that she said she would fatten us up and sell us? Maybe she bought cakes for the same purpose." Knowing that she would fatten us up and sell us, Brother Lu still ate wonton. Gong Qiannuo retorted. Gong Qianlin was even angrier now. Under the bright yellow candlelight, his small face was swollen with anger, and he dared not do anything to the foolish younger brother in front of him. Turn around and ask Gong Qianyu beside you. "Fourth brother, why aren't you talking? Do you also feel that a poisonous woman is not well behaved?" Gong Qianyu looked at the things on the table, unable to explain what was on his mind. "I always feel like she has changed, but I don't know where she has changed. She is not incapable of feeding them fat before selling them. She thought about selling them a year ago. The human traffickers who came to see them said that they were too thin to sell for a good price. Let her gain weight before selling. Is she really planning to thinking of this?" Gong Qianyu's black pupils under her eyes swore not to remove that person, the vortex of endless death. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Gong Qiannuo's Intimacy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Gong Qiannuo's Intimacy, Fourth Brother. Are you foolish? Why aren't you talking? Seeing that Gong Qianyu had not responded for a while, Gong Qianlin pushed and shouted at his arm. She buys and eats, no matter what her purpose is, only when she is full can she have the strength to compete with her. Gong Qianyu picked up a piece of cake and took a bite. "I gave each of my 2 younger brothers a piece. Fourth brother is right. Only when he's full can he have the strength to kill that poisonous woman. If she dares to sell us again, I'll hit her head with a stick." There aren't many pastries, each of the 3 brothers has 1 piece left. I can't blame Gu Zining for buying less. I really don't have the money to buy too much. A piece of cake costs 8 won, for yuan is 30.2 won. Refined rice costs 52 won per kilogram. She can say for good or for bad. She bought 10 jin for 50 won, and oil costs 400 won per kilogram. She didn't dare to buy too much, so she bought half a jin. Salt is even more expensive, and it costs 800 won per kilogram. She bought 1 or 2, and all of these add up to about 1 or 2 silver coins. Gong Qianlin finished 1 piece in his hand and reached out to take the remaining 1. As soon as he reached out, another hand was faster than him. "This piece belongs to my sister in law, I'll leave it for her to come back and eat." Among the 6 brothers, only the youngest Gong Qiannuo would call Gu Zining's sister in law. Gong Qianlin extended his hand and looked at Gong Qiannuo with a curious expression. "What happened to Xiaoqi today? Always helping that poisonous woman. She also needs to keep the pastry." Facing Gong Qianlin's gaze, Gong Qiannuo explained, sister-in-law bought 4 cakes and didn't leave them for her. She must know we ate them. What if she comes back and hits us? I feel that what Gong Qiannuo said makes sense. But there's nothing strange about him. After finishing the pastry, rest early and I'll go out for a trip. After all, Gong Qiannuo is bigger and thinks more. Regardless of the future, as she said, we must first repay the money we owe others. There are only 2 acres of land left at home, and if the money owed to the villagers is not repaid, they will have to use their land to offset it. How do they survive without land? Dad, Mom, Big Brother, they are all buried like this. Where should they go if they leave here? Gong Qiannuo silently calculated the amount of money owed in her heart. The total is 8 taels and 3 coins. He took the silver left by Gu Zining on the table and counted it. 4th brother, do you really believe in the words of the poison woman? You took her silver, and what should she do when she comes back to us? Gong Qianlin spoke with concern, but it was also a verbal expression, and his hands were very honest as he helped count the copper coins. Believe it or not, it is a fact that our family owes the villagers money. If she is willing to give it, we will use it to repay it. Afterwards, she will ask us for silver, and if we can write her an IOU, we cannot refuse to repay the money owed to everyone in the village. Now is the busy farming season, and the seeds and fertilizers in the field need to be spent on silver. No one has enough money in their hands. The big guy still lent us it out of consideration for his deceased brother. It's been 6 months now and it's time to repay it. Counting the money, Gong Qiannuo wrapped it in a piece of cloth and went door to door under the moonlight to repay the money. 4th brother, I'm with you. No need. After leaving all day, you and Xiaoqi should sleep at home first. I'll be back in a while. Gong Qiannuo refused to let Gong Qianlin follow. Gong Qianlin had no choice but to return to the room and boil water, wash his hands, feet, and sleep with Gong Qiannuo. It was already late at night when Gu Zining returned dragging a large bundle of willow branches. My home is pitch black. She walked to the window and listened for a while, but did not hear the sound of thunder from the 5 organs temple coming from inside. Instead, she heard a few sounds like a little pig eating its fill, Gu Zining unconsciously raised the corner of her mouth, and a light sense of relief appeared on her face. Making them eat enough is considered a solution. Next, we need to save money to take them to the town to rent a house. She has always known about the money owed by her family, and she also knows that she bought rice and noodles for 10 taels of silver to pay off her debt, which is almost gone. There is hot water left in the pot. Gu Zining gave a simple wash. She wanted to take a shower, but conditions didn't allow it. As soon as I entered the main room, a small figure ran over from the neighboring room, holding a cake in his hand. Looking at the pastry in his hand, Gu Zining was about to reach out and touch his head when she saw him shrink back in fear. She took the pastry from his hand and put it in her mouth instead. Go to bed quickly. Don't cook for me tomorrow morning. I ate it in the city. Don't be reluctant to eat the rice you bought. After finishing it, sister.in.law, you can buy it. After explaining tomorrow's matter, Gu Zining returned to her room. The taste of the pastry is average and sweet. She doesn't really enjoy eating. But thinking of that small figure, she still swallowed it. As the sky slightly brightened, Gu Zining put the collected eels into a bucket. There were more eels today than yesterday. She also had a sudden idea and, while lowering the fish basket, dropped a few drops of water from a stone bowl in space onto the earthworms. The effect was unexpectedly good. When she put away the fish basket, she only felt her hands sink. 5 fish baskets are estimated to weigh 5 or 6 pounds of eel and over half a pound of loach. Looking at the loach, Gu Zining touched her chin and thought that when she went to Yapinju later, she would sell a recipe for making loaches to Huachinga. Yesterday, I told Huachinga that there is some shortage of seasoning in side dishes in his kitchen. I don't know how well he made up for it either. I bumped the bucket in my hand, feeling a bit heavy. The smile at the corner of Gu Xining's mouth deepened, as if seeing Qian waving at her. When she left the village, there were already people working in the fields one after another. Seeing her, everyone looked at her with strange eyes as she left the village. After walking for a while, Gu Xining vaguely felt that someone was following her. When she turned around, she didn't see anything. It takes at least an hour and a half to walk from Lianhua village to Linshui city. Until the sky brightens. Gu Xining finally saw who was secretly following behind him. What are you doing with me when you're not sleeping at home? On the roadside, Gu Xining asked Gong Qiannuo, who was following her. Gong Qiannuo was one arm away from Gu Xining, and he lowered his head without speaking, feeling uneasy in his heart. He was hesitating whether to tell her or not. He was worried that she would get lost, so he secretly followed behind. Yesterday, she took the wrong road several times, but it was her fourth brother who reminded her. He was afraid that if there was no fourth brother today, she would take the wrong road again. Looking at the little uncle with his head lowered like a frightened little beast. Gu Xining slowed down and couldn't help but tease her. Are you afraid that if I go to Linshui city, I won't go back again? So you secretly followed me from behind. Upon hearing Gu Xining misunderstand himself, Gong Qiannuo became anxious. No, it's not. I'm afraid my sister in law will get lost and won't be able to find her way home. Gong Qiannuo spoke softly behind her, still looking timid. Gu Xining smiled. Are you not afraid that I will sell you again when I come home? Gong Qiannuo pondered Gu Xining's words, then lifted his head for a while. His malnourished little face was determined after struggling. Can sister law sell us to me? Why? Because I am the youngest and most useless in my family. My second brother can farm, my fourth brother can write, and my sixth brother is strong. And then what? Gu Xining pretended not to know and turned his face to look at Gong Qiannuo. Gong Qiannuo was momentarily speechless and her mind went blank when she saw her. Ha! Gu Xining chuckled softly. Don't worry. I won't sell you at the moment, but Xiaoqi will definitely be very obedient, very obedient. Sister-in-law, don't sell her brothers. If you want to sell Xiaoqi. Gong Qiannuo was frightened, his face turned pale, and tears filled his eyes. End of this chapter.